I was on Unrivaled Boxing stream, and there I am screaming at Luke Campbell to try and finish Ryan Garcia.
Oh! You're looking more like Menudo now.
Luke, get in there, man. Follow up.
You got a joke on him, Luke. What are you doing, bro? What is he doing?
Hold on, Luke. What's the matter with you, Luke?
Oh, no. Luke, what are you doing? You're fighting like he just knocked you down.
Very disappointing for me, that was. Luke blew his opportunity. Maybe he wouldn't have got the stoppage, but I feel he should have went for it, and a lot of people do as well. The fight was lost. I think it was at the end of the third or fourth when Ryan landed that left hook, and Luke turned away from the action like POWERLESS did against AJ. He turned away, looking towards the ropes, and it was over from there, really, you know, like the fight was punched out of him, literally, and you can't do anything about that. I can't be hard on Luke for that. Everyone has their threshold. Whether people want to hear that or not, everyone has their threshold. Now, look, it's Luke's title fight at the end of the day, so, you know, he's got to take it on his shoulders, but I attribute the losses as much to Shane McGuigan as I do to Luke, in all truth, because I just don't get the energy that you sent a title, not a title challenger, but a British fighter in a world title eliminator. I don't get the energy that he brought to the table fighting away from home. I'm not getting it. But I'm going to try and get out of my way a little. And I can't expect Luke to do things he's not capable of doing. Yeah? I'm just disappointed. What I really is the knockdown more than anything. That he didn't try and finish Ryan. But then again, maybe he thought he wasn't that hurt. But seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. I don't know where Luke goes from here. He's 33 now. Does he want to work his way back at domestic level? We'll see what ambition is left. With Ryan Garcia winning, though, to me, it looks like the lightweight division is about to eclipse the welterweight division in America in terms of popularity. Like, Ryan is young, Tank is young, Teofimo Lopez is young, Devin Haney is young, while Errol Spence is 30, Thurman is in his 30s, Porter is in his 30s. You know, none of them are fighting Terence Crawford. It looks like it's plateaued over at the PBC at 147. But the lightweight division, if the politics don't F it all up, it will eclipse 147. That was January. Porter did fight Crawford, and the lightweights haven't quite eclipsed 147 yet. But we'll move on. Bob Arum is talking about he's 95% confident that a deal will be struck in 2 weeks, and we'll just be waiting for a date and a location to be announced for the first undisputed heavyweight title fight since 1999. That was Holyfield versus Lennox Lewis. That ended up a draw, and Lewis won the rematch to become undisputed. So Bobby's saying he's 5% more confident than Eddie was saying. He was 90% sure that it was going to happen. Bob's gone the extra 5%. Alexander Usyk playing a little hardball. He will be out of contract with Matchroom unless Eddie Hearn delivers a fight with Anthony Joshua. Now, Usyk is the mandatory for Joshua with the WBO. But he's the only roadblock, it seems, between AJ and Fury. The Wilder-Fury mediation thing, it seems like that's at a dead end, because it's the first time Bob's coming out talking, saying he's 95% that this fight's going to happen. He hasn't come out for a little while now since the POWERLESS fight. He hasn't said anything, but last night he seems to have perked up. Yep, Bob, 95% that we're going to get an undisputed fight between AJ and Fury. I think most of you know how that went. Racism, bullying women, sexual assaults, illegally streaming fights on the network that he's supposed to fight on. And that has been popped for PEDs. Sergey Kovalev is looking for the full bag of craziness. I'm the boxer who F's up the most, and he wins that award. Still in January, he's the top 10 most powerful people in boxing. At number 10, Prince Abdulaziz. I'm not going to try and pronounce it all. It's a very long name. He is the chairman of General Sports Authority in Saudi Arabia. They're hoping to bring a deal to the table for Fury and Joshua. They've already done Joshua and Ruiz, the rematch. So he's become a very big player. we have Frank Warren at number 9. Tough year on the domestic scene with Dubois and Anthony Yard taking a couple of L's, but, you know, some say he no longer promotes Tyson Fury. That's all Bob Arum territory now, but he's still somewhere in the picture, isn't he? 8. Burke Magnus. He is ESPN's Executive Vice President of Programming. He was pivotal in the deal with bringing Top Rank back to ESPN. At number 7, we have Kalle and Nice Sauerland. Sauerland brothers. They've spearheaded the World Boxing Super Series. They recently signed Chris Eubank. Up there pretty high at number 7. Number 6, we have Steven Espinoza, tipped to be run out of the game by Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn when DAZN came along, but they're still hanging in there. They put on shows with PBC fighters like Errol Spence, the Charlos, and Gervonta Davis, so they're still in the frame. At number 5, we have John Skipper, the executive director of DAZN parent company, the Perform Group. They will be looking to have a big impact in the game this year. At number 4, Al Heyman. What would his title be? I don't know. CEO, founder of the PBC, and advisor to its vast roster of fighters. They started slow last year, but in the second half they put on some good cards. At number 3, Eddie Hearn, Matt from Boxing. Started off with the fight camp. Joshua Pulev had some fans at the Wembley Arena. And we're talking about a pivotal year because the Matchroom Sky Sports deal is due for renewal this year. And DAZN's planned global takeover, that kind of ups the ante of what's going to happen with that renewal. And with Joshua looking to take on Tyson Fury for the undisputed heavyweight title, a lot at stake there for Eddie Hearn. At number 2, we've got Bob Arum, Top Rank. He had one of the biggest fights this year with Lopez and Lomachenko, where he couldn't lose, and as much as he says that he's against rematch clauses, he didn't really need one, did he, when he was having a dig at Eddie? He's been at the heart of all the fights in the bubble at Las Vegas, I guess. He'll want to keep his number 2 position or elevate to number 1 by having Tyson Fury beat Anthony Joshua, and Eddie Hearn will be hoping to overtake Bob by having AJ kick Fury's ass. So, a lot to play for, number 2 and 3 spots. And at number 1, we have Saul Canelo Alvarez. He had his court battle with DAZN, but mainly with Golden Boy, let's face it. He had one fight this year, taking the WBC and the WBA super middleweight title from Callum Smith. He's a free agent, broke away from Golden Boy, only to renegotiate his own deal with DAZN for the Smith fight. And no doubt he will be in demand for 2021. They're saying here on the fringes is Richard Schaefer joining forces with Al Heyman and the PBC in the summer. Lou DiBella is plotting a big 2021, is he? And an individual named Morinari Watanabe, the head of the Olympic Boxing Task Force, has a huge year approaching, presuming the games take place. The British Boxing Board of Control predictably admit they are powerless to stop Kinahan's advisory capacity in boxing after viewing BBC's Panorama program on the matter on Monday. Kinahan, he did say he stepped away, didn't he say? Or a representative say he stepped away, but lawyers have confirmed that he is advising fighters. Former heavyweight champion Leon Spinks, he passed away on the 5th of February, 67 years of age. Mark Breland and Deontay Wilder, the trainer relationship dissolved. They split acrimoniously.
Where's Michael Hunter? You said you boxed for free against Dillian White and Tyson Fury, but when we made you an offer to fight Filip Hrgovic, you didn't even reply. Come on.
That's Michael Hunter losing his boogeyman status, ducking the IBF eliminator against Hrgovic, just as Martin Bakole did Charles Martin, and there was others as well. Arguably the most, well, not arguably, definitely the most avoided heavyweight in 2021, Filip Hrgovic. Still hasn't got no one to face him in the eliminator. Eddie's been talking about Joseph Parker taking him on in that eliminator. That'd be a good look for Joseph to do that. It would. It really would. How Valdez never registered a knockdown in the 4th round, I don't know. If anyone thought that Josh Warrington got the wobbly legs last week, well, Miguel Berchelt is contender for wobbly legs of the year already. Them legs buckled. A left hook set it off, rocked him into the ropes, and then there was a big left uppercut. Then a standing 8 count, which in my opinion kind of robbed Valdez of a knockout. But it was one of them. If the ropes weren't there, he would have went down standing 8s. 10-8 round. BERCHELT came back, had a couple of decent rounds. But it was the 7th for the 8th, which Tim Bradley called the turn and burn, baby, the turn and burn. And Valdez was basically keeping BERCHELT turning and coming with these left hooks, whipping them in. And yeah, it was very good boxing. It was very good boxing. BERCHELT wrestled him to the ground late in the round, but good round for Valdez. Valdez switched to southpaw in the 9th, put together a 2-handed attack, and BERCHELT was down. BERCHELT's trying to high step, see if he can breathe some life into his legs, but them legs are shot to bits. He survives the round. BERCHELT, brave, he's trying to chase the fight. He's way down on points now. He's just got this wooden quality about his legs. It just seems to have aged overnight. He's trying to chase the fight bravely. Valdez has fought a very good fight, kept his chin low. He has way better legs. BERCHELT has a lot of knockouts and stoppages, and you had to be wary of that. And the left hook that he walked BERCHELT onto, he'll never throw a better one than that. And it ended the fight. Slept him.
Huge victory in the scheme of things, and he's just wobbled Warrington there, Lara. And the Leeds man just in a spot of bother. He hasn't seemed quite right, and the legs are shaky, and now he's all over the place here, Josh Warrington. And this is bad signs. Maurizio Lara here, an almighty underdog before the fight, has really shaken up Josh Warrington, who has not looked himself. And a great shot, and down goes Warrington. And this is absolutely disastrous for the best featherweight in the world before this fight, and he's all over the place. And Howard Foster giving him every chance. He says he's okay. That was a really bad knockdown, and Lara's on the verge here of taking Warrington out in what will be one of the biggest upsets we've seen in recent times in a British ring. The unknown 22-year-old from Mexico is maybe a punch or two away, and Warrington needs the bell, and he needs it now. Well, did you ever have a fight like that, Matt, where you just couldn't get going and it just wasn't there?
Yeah, I had one at the Echo Arena against the Spanish guy, Ruben Ron. It was a defense of the European title.
Oh, big left hand there. He nearly went again, Warrington. He's all over the place in the 9th round, and there's so much time, and down he goes, and he won't get up from that. That's it. Josh Warrington has been knocked out in one of the big stunners in a British ring in the last 2 or 3 years. You would not have expected that.
Josh Kelly's jab and Philly shell fell apart against David Avanesian. He tried his best, but he was out of there by the 6th. He was down twice prior to his corner throwing in the towel. He was cut on the back of the head somehow. And it's a long way back. We haven't seen him since February. He's regrouping now at Sky and Boxer, XX. And David Avanesian is still European champion. He's been put forward to fight Virgil Ortiz in an eliminator for one of the straps, and there's talk about him fighting Conor Benn. There's a lot happening for David Avanesian right now. Josh Kelly, he's still with Adam Booth, and they just got to stick with it. They got to stick with it. Booth threw the towel in when Kelly was wobbling all around the ring, and he saw enough that he just wasn't quite at this level, not yet. Bob said, well, the fight's only worth $2 million. Let it go to purse bids if you're not happy with the money. Tried to threaten Eddie Hearn not to go for it. Eddie still went for it. Good on you, Eddie. Eddie only bid deteriorates or loses. And Bob said, well, the fight's only worth $2 million. Let it go to purse bids if you're not happy with the money. Tried to threaten Eddie Hearn not to go for it. Eddie still went for it. Good on you, Eddie. Eddie only bid 3.5 or something. Bob had the lowest bid, was it 2.3? But the new boys on the block, TRILLA, what would you call it? A media platform or a streaming app? They bid $6 million. Snoop Dogg and Kavanaugh, $6 million, and got the fight. Now, apparently, Eddie Hearn predicted that some outsider was going to come and take the fight, and that's what happened. What Bob Arum was trying to do was exert control on the situation. That's why he tried to threaten Eddie from bidding for the fight. He was either expecting or hoping that nobody bid more than the 2.3 that he bid. So that way, he'd literally be forcing Teofimo Lopez to take his offer, in so having to concede that he's not a big draw. So his response was, Trilla can buy out Lopez's contract if they like him that much. We made $800K in 5 minutes because Top Rank take 20% from Teofimo Lopez's purse, $780,340. So Lopez will make about $3.1 million from that fight. Kambosos will make $2.1 with his portion of the purse. Kambosos is promoted by Lou DiBella. And Bob kept rambling on that the fight's not worth $2 million, and he wasn't going to pay any more than that. Arum said he had a 3.5-year contract with Lopez and he's not concerned if the relationship could potentially sour moving forward. If he wins and comes back to us and wants the same money that he got before, the answer is no. So he sits out for a while. You can't pay what you don't have. He either fights or he doesn't fight. Roman Gonzalez lost a controversial decision to Juan Estrada in their rematch in March, but they're going to do it all again next year. Estrada is now the franchise champion. This fight was a unification, WBC and WBA at stake. Most of the media and fans seem to think that Gonzalez should have got it.
It probably won't happen until November. The fight probably won't happen until November. Am I right with that information?
I can't. We've all agreed at the moment, as I mentioned to you earlier, Jim, that we cannot. I can't break a confidence that I've agreed with everybody that we will. What we announce will be simultaneous. All I can say to you is that everything is agreed. It's an imminent announcement, and obviously we've got to work on the site, and that's it. And obviously we've got to get to the expectation levels of as to what both the fighters want to fight each other.
So
it's moving in it's absolutely moving in the right direction, and everybody is on the same page.
What detail can you give us about the imminent announcement?
I can give you the detail that is imminent.
That was coming.
Is it a 2-fight deal, Frank?
It is. I mean, we've already had that out there, so I'm not breaching any confidentialities. You know, that's out there,
okay.
And it will be a 2-fight deal, yeah.
So it's a 2-fight deal, 50-50 in the first fight, 60-40 in the second?
The numbers are a confidentiality clause in the contract, but it is what it doesn't matter really what it is, as long as they get it on. That's all we're moving towards that.
I take it the numbers are mind-boggling, though, Frank. Is that right? We hear, okay, an imminent announcement. Are we talking that each fighter would earn something between 75 and 100 million?
Please God, they do.
Because the fighters here, with all due respect to you and Eddie Hearn, the promoters, it's the fighters who are going to make massive money in this, aren't they? Yeah,
of course it is, and that's how it should be. You know, they're both, respective champions. Between them, the 4 belts are on the line, and they should earn a lot of money. This is a career-defining fight for them, for both of them. And the winner of this will hold the 4 belts, and they will get, you know, if everything goes to plan, they'll earn huge money.
But to some extent, Frank, that is the stumbling block about site fee, isn't it? Because that's the driving factor behind it, isn't it? The site fee is going to be able to facilitate. I'm not commenting on whether they should or shouldn't get 100 million each per fight. I'm just looking at the mechanics of how to get it done. And if it were that you had do you have an embarrassment of riches, Frank, of sites that will pay the site fee to be able to provide the solution to unlocking the economics of the fight?
Well, we've got a couple of territories that are very, very interested in getting on for obvious reasons.
Are you able to say who they are?
I can't, because again, we've all signed a confidentiality clause on that. But the position is that they are very, very interested, and the issue which has been for everybody, has been COVID. I mean, we'd have had this over the line last year, if it hadn't been for COVID. So that's where we're at.
Everything will be sorted here, Spencer, won't it, Frank? Everything will be sorted once we know that Fury Joshua is happening, and you're saying that's imminent.
It is imminent, yeah.
End of the week imminent.
I hope so. It's the end of the week tomorrow, isn't it, or Saturday? We've all worked very hard. Everybody concerned has worked very hard to make this happen. And as I say, it's very imminent. It'll be announced. And when it is announced, it'll be done jointly between everybody who's a party to the fight.
Marvelous Marvin Hagler passed away, former undisputed middleweight champion, made 12 defenses of the belt. My favorite fighter. He died at age 66. Still in March. So on the back of Frank Warren's emergency appearance on TalkSport, I'm talking about him having to repair Tyson Fury potentially sabotaging the £200 million Battle of Britain. So on the back of that, Eddie Hearn has revealed they are days away from announcing the £200 million Battle of Britain. He hits out at Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, for claiming he's drinking 12 pints a day on holiday, and warns him he'll never get a bigger fight in his career. Hearn insists we are just days away from confirming Joshua versus Fury. The £200 million Battle of Britain is slated to take place this summer in June or July. Hearn also hopes to have a date and venue finalised within the next month. It comes after Fury said he was on holiday, with the fight nowhere near finalised. That's why Frank Warren had to get on TalkSport. Hearn said we are on the verge of giving everyone some great news. Eddie Hearn said, I know I've said 5 weeks ago, but we are days away. That's what he's saying, days away. Eddie said he's never going to make this kind of money again, and ultimately it's up to him as an individual. Talking about Tyson Fury. He said for AJ, of course, we have to maximize his revenue, but AJ just wants to knock Tyson Fury out. He wants to be undisputed. He's so driven. And Eddie said in a recent interview he didn't feel that energy from Tyson Fury. Said he wants Tyson Fury to get his mojo back and start concentrating on what is a life-changing moment for our sport. The undisputed heavyweight championship of the world between two Brits. Then I found this tweet from Michael Benson, Tyson Fury. You never know if I'm telling the truth or not. When I tell the truth, people don't believe me anyway. And when I don't tell the truth, they still don't believe me. The proof is in the pudding. Everything I said in my whole career, I backed up. The fight is signed. Undisputed heavyweight title fight. So here we go. Done deal. Anthony Joshua fight with Tyson Fury, as Eddie Hearn confirms 2-fight deal worth £200 million for later this year. Yeah? Anthony Joshua fight with Tyson Fury signed. All parties have signed. Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury will face off twice in 2021 after the contracts were finally signed. This summer. It's going to be summer, June or July. We're just waiting for a date and a venue. Glavatsky used a lot of side-to-side movement. He didn't want to back up and fill the full length of one of them right hands. But that style takes a lot of energy. And in the last digest I didn't predict a winner. I said, I'm just going to watch this and see how it goes, because I wasn't sure. But once I saw Okolie hit him with them body shots, I was like, them body shots were enormous. And he softened up Glavatsky, softened him up behind the jab. Big body shots, big rights to the head. I don't know if Glavatsky just came for a paycheck, in all honesty, because his attempts at offense seemed very perfunctory. He didn't want to open up because he knew them big counters were coming back. So Okolie did what he pleased, really. Okolie called out Bradis after. I'd like to see him take Bradis on. And the new WBO Cruiserweight Champion, Lawrence Okolie. Well done. The experts may want to tell you that Povetkin was old. He had COVID, and Dillian Whyte's victory doesn't mean anything. And then if Povetkin goes on to take out some upcoming prospects, they would have to say they've been proven wrong. Certain fighters can make good fighters not look as what they normally look. Even in the fight where Dillian lost, Povetkin was brought into Dillian's world. Dillian is the bully of the division. He's a bully. I believe Povetkin, and I could be wrong, was a little intimidated that this time around, a more prepared Dillian than the one he fought last time, who was outboxing him and dropped him twice, was a very dangerous man. I predicted at 10 to 2 p.m. on Twitter that Dillian will win and he will look good doing it. Now, it was a gallant effort by Frampton. And I'm not a big Frampton fan, but it was a gallant effort. But it was an uphill battle. Jamal actually made decent use of his jab, as good as you're going to get from him. His left cross and uppercut were exemplary when needed to be. The key moment for Jamal came when he was cut over the right eye. It was the same eye or the same injury that led to the unsatisfactory ending in the Jonathan Oquendo fight. And he didn't let Frampton back in the fight. He didn't let him back in. That invigorated Frampton, seeing blood spurting out of his eye. And it was a bad cut. It didn't stop bleeding until the fight concluded in the 6th. It was a bad cut. The adrenaline, the Vaseline, or whatever they was putting on the injury couldn't staunch it. It couldn't staunch it. Frampton was fighting a suicidal fight for a man of his dimensions against a rangy fighter with the leverage that Jamal can generate into his punches. Because, I think he wanted to keep range, use his upper body movement to counter Jamal's jab, get inside and fire off big shots. But Jamal was so sharp that option wasn't there. So he had to come forward and basically throw himself at Jamal, and he was doing so with his chin up in the air. When he got dropped from the uppercut, he fell on his back in slow motion, it looked like. That was in the 6th. He also walked Frampton onto another left hand, a left cross, I believe it was, that dropped him in the 5th. Frampton was stopped on his feet in the 6th. He briefly protested to Jamie Moore, but the right decision was made, and he's retired from boxing now. Career best performance for Herring yesterday. Bomac got 2 world champions in camp. Demetrius Andrade defended his WBO 160-pound title twice this year, while the likes of Golovkin just sat on the sidelines and Charlo wouldn't answer back none of his calls. Williams had one moment with a right hand during the fight, but it was easy work, really, for Demetrius. Quigley, that was easy too. That was easy. Apparently he's going to vacate the belt rather than fight Johnny Beck. I don't like the idea of that, but they're going to move up to 168. I didn't advise Josh Warrington to vacate his belt without defending it, or James DeGale, so I can't say any different with Demetrius Andrade. Should fight your mandatory. Equally, the likes of Golovkin and Charlo and Munguia, they don't have no excuse not to fight this guy. 12th of April, Joe Smith, he wins the WBO title controversially against Vlasov. I thought Vlasov won. Everybody was expecting Blue Collar Joe to then go fight Beterbiev, but Callum Johnson is the choice of defense next year. Boots Ennis, he impressed against Lipinets. Conor Benny stopped Vargas in a round, and I'm just learning how to do timestamps. You can never tell until the fight is signed. There's some people who obviously don't want the fight to happen. They just have this negative, gloomy position when viewing the prospects of that fight happening. And, it's to be expected, I guess, in this climate of boxing, with some of the weirdest fan bases out there. John Fury is a curious case. He's representing Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury hasn't separated himself from what his dad is saying. So he's speaking for Tyson Fury. There's no doubt about that. And it makes you wonder, what is Bob Arum and Frank Warren telling Tyson Fury about the fight? What are they telling him? Now, it seems like Daniel Kinahan is not on the radar. It looks like Eddie's doing all the work. I don't see Frank Warren hopping on any planes. He probably can't because he's still recovering from COVID. And we know Bub's just sitting down smoking herb and pottering about the place, AJ said he's going to have some positive news very soon. Fury said he has received some offers. I think the fight's going to happen. It's just a lot of conflicting signals, where not only do the rivaling parties not seem to be on board, but Team Fury, including Arum and Warren, they don't seem to have any cohesive position on what's happening with the fight. So it's a strange one. I think it's going to happen, though. In the build-up to the Canelo fight, Billy Joe Saunders complained about the judges, that there's going to be corruption. He wanted a British judge, complained about his purse, complained about this guy, blah, 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 blah. Just being a perpetual victim. Bob Arum, he revealed that the likely site for the Joshua Fury fight is going to be in Jeddah. And he was very enthusiastic about this. Breaking down pay-per-view revenue, how BT and Sky were going to share the pay-per-view revenue and what ESPN were going to do, etc., etc. Eddie Hearn, he won the purse bid for Michael Hunter and Philippe Pogovic. Stay tuned. This was on the Boxing Beat Weekly, Volume 38, April the 20th. Barry Hearn steps down as chairman of Matchroom Sports, and Eddie Hearn, he takes up that role, the head honcho. We're still in April, and it was also rumoured that Eddie had agreed a 9-figure 5-year broadcast deal with DAZN in the UK and is leaving Sky. It's claimed this starts July the 1st and does not include Anthony Joshua or Dillian Whyte, whose deals are separate negotiations, according to Michael Benson sources. Looks like Saudi Arabia. Bob Arum said it. Eddie didn't answer, but he seemed to be in line with what Bob was saying. Frank Warren, Frank just, I don't know. I think Frank feels a bit out of the loop sometimes, maybe a bit dejected. He said, I haven't heard anything. That Frank old school isn't and shit. But it looks like the fight is going to happen. And let's talk about the real important things that matter. Who comes out first in, I guess, would be the challenger's role? Who comes out first? Who comes out last? Okay, so I put up the case for AJ. 10 title fights, 1 loss, 3 belts, still got the 3 straps. Put up the case for Fury. You're going to say Lineal or whatever, he beat Wilder, he beat Klitschko before AJ. Everyone can make a case. Fury's Ring Magazine champion. Or do they just flip a coin? Has it already been decided? Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter, I guess. If you're really serious about winning a fight, it doesn't matter. David Adilier, Frank Warren heavyweight prospect, didn't look too good against journeyman Kamil Sokolowski. This was really good stuff for David Adilier today. This was excellent stuff. It couldn't have panned out any better for him. Now let's start with, he didn't win the fight. Kamil Sokolowski threw the better hard punches. He bulled him into the ropes with his physical strength. The shorter man, but way more experienced. He knew his tactics from the jump. He used his core, his lowest center of gravity, to his advantage. He outworked David for the most of it. He tired in the later rounds, and we knew that already. In the Ultimate Fighter contest, he flagged in the later rounds. But he's probably got another job while he moonlights as a boxer. This guy is not a full-time boxer. He probably trains, when he can. Lucky for David. David couldn't get the double jab going. No 1-2. No idea how to use the ring. He couldn't stop Sokolowski getting so close up on him. From the first bell, he couldn't do it. Shocker. Looking for one power shot, and the power didn't even look that impressive. And for his physicality, he just didn't look that strong. He landed a good shot at the end of the 6th when the fight was basically over. And it looked like it stunned Sokolowski. It looked like it stunned him. Caught him a little too late, though. But like I said, this fight was brilliant for David because it's better now than you rack up 12 more victories and then they put you in there with a lumbering, slow opponent, like Joe Joyce was supposed to be, and you get your ass whooped and knocked out, right? David got his wake-up call now. Now he knows he can't just slap over everybody like he's been doing so far with his hand-picked opponents. Now you know it's real. And he needs to make sure he gives Frank Warren an extra big up and thank you for bailing him out on the scorecards in this one. I was rooting for Denzel Bentley. It's my dude. I told my Ghanaian brethren about this and he was well into it. He knew about Denzel Bentley, but I told him he was a really good fighter and he was really looking forward to this. And he's going to be pissed. He's going to be really pissed. But that's boxing, man. He was up against a powerful middleweight today. I picked Bentley to win this, but when I saw the weigh-in and I saw the size of Felix Cash, and he's a very big, strong middleweight, he just very robust, very tough, very powerful. Tony Sims, Little bit of an underrated coach. Denzel, his hands were too low. He was always open to that right hand. Quick stoppage perhaps, maybe so, but he took about 4 or 5 right hands consecutively, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to see him get bludgeoned by any more of them. You know what I mean? I don't think the stoppage was that bad. People are going to say quick British stoppage, and they have a point. They do have a point, but I think Denzel was in trouble. You know, all throughout April, Tyson Fury and Billy Joe Saunders were bitching and moaning at Eddie Hearn. If you don't get the fight sorted, I'm going to fight Ajit KAMBOSOS. Tyson, I ain't getting enough time to train. Billy Joe Saunders still whining about the purse and the ring and this and that. And Eddie, Tyson Fury jumped in. You're stitching up Billy. You don't want Billy to win. You're setting it all up for Canelo to win. And then we had Ammo Williams, who started doing these raps about Eddie. He wasn't focused on Mama's boy, Dennis Dolan. He was focused on that bitch in the back, putting a price on people's lives. And he had his little episode, and, you know, he's since returned to Matchroom and had a winning fight. And let's hope he can stay on the straight and narrow, so to speak. Derek Chisora lost a split decision in the Manchester Arena. Joseph Parker was very lucky to get a decision away from home like that. Very lucky, and I was very disappointed for Derek, but that's how that goes. Derek dropped Parker with the first punch of the fight, the overhand right. He looked like he outworked Joseph and threw the hardest shots and brung the pressure, but the judges didn't see fit to give it to Derek. Very disappointing. Kazuto Ioka, he popped for cannabis. Michael Hunter was under suspicion of PED usage, but nothing came of it. Joshua Buatsi hooks up with Virgil Hunter. Billy Joe Saunders taunts Canelo about Mexican beef. It's announced that the first Bridgerweight contest will be happening in September between Jennings and Rivas. Next week is probably the last throw up the dice and deadline to get this fight over the hump, at least temporarily. So on Sunday, both teams got their contracts and they're reviewing them right now. And anytime after Canelo and Saunders, we should hear an announcement. If it's not next week, then it's time for AJ to focus on Usyk. I think Team Usyk are waiting and hoping for AJ and Fury to fall apart so they can get their big payday against AJ. They've made no commitment at all to finalising an interim fight with Joe Joyce. On the 8th of May, Billy Joe Saunders retires on his stool before the beginning of the 8th round against Saul Canelo Alvarez. Alvarez annexes Billy's WBO super middleweight title, 1 to go.
I punch him dead in his eyes.
Here we go. The Q word comes back up in boxing. Let me start with the real shit. Nobody's given Billy Joe Saunders a free ticket to ride through this world. He's earned all what he has the hard way. Let that young man go through his surgery and heal up and go break bread with his family. I hope the surgery that's required is successful. Yeah, I do. 100%. Just because he's not in a position to really smack talk right now because he's down, it doesn't mean the rest of the boxing world are not going to take their shots. Now, that might not sit well with some people. Well, it may not have sat very well with Daniel Dubois and his family when Billy was doing what a lot of people are doing now, saying, you quit, and it's not acceptable. This was the worst point of Daniel's amateur and professional career. This is the worst point. And look at the classy response he gave yesterday. You fought well at Billy Joe Saunders. Hope your eye heals up quickly and you can come back stronger. Champ. Maybe you guys should be talking about that more than pouring sympathy on Billy Joe Saunders. As for the fake outrage, it's lost on me. It has no effect on me at all. I didn't force him into a boxing ring. We can start there. Any verbal attacks Billy gets, he should be able to handle because he's thrown out plenty himself. And I'm here to tell you this, all you people who was upset. If you didn't extend that same courtesy to Daniel Dubois, then you're full of it. You're full of it. I don't have to want Billy Joe Saunders to go blind and not be able to enjoy the vast fortune that he earned yesterday. But if you're going to ask me, honestly, if I think Billy was due some of what he's been getting, yes, he was due. But look, he got beaten conclusively. And as far as I'm concerned, the lesson has been learned and it's been taught. If you want me to, over mollycoddle Billy when he hasn't mollycoddled a lot of individuals who's been targeted in his pranks and his extracurricular activity. Well, I'm not going to do it. You don't want me to say he quit? Well, you give me the definition of quit. Now, Billy's interpretation of quitting is that his pulse has to stop before he stops fighting. So by his definition, he quit. He didn't protest the stoppage, whether the referee stopped it or Jimmy Tibbs stopped it. It doesn't matter. He didn't protest. He accepted it. And yes, it's a severe injury. Multiple fractures. But I didn't see his pulse anywhere near stopping, did you? Joshua Buatsi scores the first of 2 spectacular knockouts this year. And, you know, his opponent, DeSantis, was unbeaten. And it was such a devastating KO. The young man was in distress. Obvious distress. And Joshua Buatsi had to kind of give him counseling almost, it looked like, in the ring to help him get through this bad moment. Yeah, it was very bizarre. Very bizarre. So the aftermath of Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo lingers on. MTK, they got the damage control in really quick. And IFL, you know, I'm not going to say they lost a lot of respect because people have very short attention span. But, you know, in the name of journalistic integrity, how they handled that was terrible. Now, we know they're sponsored by MTK, but Mark Tibbs made a damning video on what he thought of Billy Joe Saunders' performance and if he quit or not. IFL took down the video. IFL took down several videos. So did Michelle Phelps and a few outlets, which was suggesting that Billy quit. But they didn't do that for Daniel Dubois. They didn't do that for Anthony Joshua. And they haven't done that for several other boxers either. And it's very unsavory. I've got a video about it, and I'm going to leave it in the description box. It's quite interesting. Preposterous was the word that ARUM used in the decision of the arbitration. He still plans to go ahead with the fight on August the 14th in Saudi Arabia. He said, we're not paying Wilder step aside. It's better to get rid of him and go about our business. After hearing that the fight was signed by both parties and sites and locations were about to be worked out, the most lucrative fight in British boxing history is cancelled on a fucking arbitration. That's just crazy, man. Absolutely craziness. Easily, as a single topic, the most disappointing thing I've witnessed since I've been a boxing fan. Let's say it was around the 15th they ruled in Wilder's favour. Then by the 18th or 19th, in a few days' time, Bob had a location and a date and everything except for Wilder and Fury, which made people believe that he was never really serious about the AJ fight, and behind closed doors he was negotiating the Wilder fight, and he was trying to play Eddie and Matchroom and make them look stupid, or some kind of anti-Eddie attack for whatever reason, business or whatever. That's what it felt like to me.
Hunter has led the public and everyone to believe he wants to fight Philip Hergovic. He knew he did not want that fight from day one.
Callie Salin tore into Michael Hunter in this interview. He just tore into him. Tore strips of him. You know, Hunter told lies like Eddie Hearn didn't want to get involved once Trilla made a bid. There's nothing recorded that Trilla made a bid for this fight. Nothing at all. The only people who bid was Eddie, who was a joint partner with the Salins. The purse bid was $600,000 plus. Hunter would have got the lion's share of it because he was ranked higher than Hergovic. And you know where I lost respect for Michael Hunter, really? Because, you know, Eddie is the beating stick for everybody who ain't getting their way. Eddie, threatened to fight and call him all types of names. And that's what Michael Hunter did. Like, Eddie wasn't nowhere near as aggressive as Callie Salin was. Michael Hunter didn't say anything about Callie Salin. And Callie was calling him a fraud, tearing him apart, coward. There's people who will vouch that I told them that he isn't this throwback boogeyman fighter that they were claiming he was after he beat, you know, the likes of Ustinov on the road and Kuzmin and drew with Povetkin. I told them he wasn't. I told him he was going to bow to risk reward just like a whole load of fighters do modern day. So after the devastating defeat to Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois splits with trainer Martin Bowers, who is still his manager, and he hooks up with Jimmy Tibbs. Didn't last very long, was it? A few weeks at the most, and he ended up going with Shane McGuigan. Some people say Daniel's dad is a little domineering, but Shane wasn't having it, so he managed to get the gig with Daniel under his terms. Daniel came back this year with a win over Bogdan Dinu. Very easy. Very, very easy. Like, just a knock-over job. Dinu decided to come in way heavier than he normally does, which makes no sense because, you know, he's a 4 or 5 round fighter, but in them 4 or 5 rounds, he normally moves pretty well. And the added bulk just left him there as a sitting duck. And Daniel just clobbered him. He took his head off. Devin Haney comprehensively outboxed and outpunched Jorge Linares in defense of his WBC lightweight title. Got buzzed around the 10th, I believe it was, but he recovered well and he won well. So Jean Pascal was scheduled to fight Badou Jack in May, but he popped dirty. The WBA have a clean boxing program through VADA, and he popped dirty. He was suspended for 6 months, so we may well see him in the ring very soon. He was popped for 3 different substances: epitrenbolone, drostanolone, drostabolone, metabolites. Yeah, man. Pascal was given the opportunity to open the B sample. In almost every situation, the B sample comes back with the identical test as the A sample. He wants to clear his name.
I claim I'm innocent, but that's what they all say.
Jared Hurd got involved in a drag-him-out battle with Luis Arias, TMT fighter. This was at middleweight. And he lost. He lost. Minor upset. Split decision. Badou Jack had a routine win on the card. He's since left TMT. On the DAZN card, Gabe Rosado scored a shock 3rd round knockout against Bektemir. Yeah, I ain't trying that surname. Against Bektemir, or Beck, as he's commonly known. Now, Rosado was under pressure early. He was floored. Beck with the vicious body attack. He came back against the raw Beck and was doing well, and Gabe slept him with that backhand right hand. Slept him. He didn't even see it coming. Slept him. I don't think the big shock was that Gabe won, but I think it was the manner of how Gabe won. Spectacular. Most spectacular win of Gabe's career. Jaime Munguia, I believe on the same card, he stopped Kamil Zelemeta, who challenged Golovkin and was unsuccessful. Can't really make too much of it. Anyway, another impressive defense is Michael Dasmariñas. 3rd round knockout. Anyway, a unified champion at bantamweight was defending his 2 scraps. Chavez Sr., he rolled back the years with an impressive exhibition against Hector Camacho Jr. Anderson Silva, the UFC fighter, he styled on Chavez Jr. and made him look like a bit of a novice. They're currently talking about Chavez fighting Jake Paul to be the first actual boxer to test the theory that Jake can't beat actual boxers. Leonard Ellaby's just spent the year annoying people. Here's one of his gems.
It's worthy.
People kind of shocked the boxing world if he actually called out Taylor at this point. You know, getting the win over Barry.
Okay, well, let me clear that up. Okay, Taylor just fought an undisputed junior welterweight championship, right? 1,000 people in attendance. In the United States. What does it mean? We're going to fill up an arena anyway. We're going to get all of that. Trust and believe, we're going to get all of that. We're going to get every bit of that. Every bit of that. But I'm just saying, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, all these guys are good fighters, but you got to be able to bring some to the dance. Because it does take 2 to tangle. You can't just say, oh, I just want to fight the champ. I want to fight the top dog out there. I want to get paid.
To actually have the audacity to say, you can't just say you want to fight the champ to the undisputed champion in the weight class. That's not boxing, Leonard. And it's not even to have a go at Leonard. It's just not boxing. It's just not boxing no more. So now we're near the end of July. Now time flies. Lomachenko, he outclassed the Japanese beanpole lightweight Nakatani and stopped him in 9. Excellent performance. Nakatani was coming off the fan-friendly fight with Felix Verdeo Sanchez, who is currently being held without bail until his trial. The disgraced boxer turned himself in to authorities last week. This was in May, after Keisha Rodriguez Ortiz's body was found floating on the San Jose Lagoon near the Teodoro Moscoso Bridge in San Juan, Puerto Rico, 2 days after her family reported her missing on April the 29th. Now, I'm assuming Felix knew this woman. She was a boxer. I don't know if she was his girlfriend or how they was involved. It was a kidnap, and he's being accused with an accomplice of punching the woman, injecting her with substances, tying her body to a block and throwing her from a bridge into water. Keisha Rodriguez Ortiz. Whew. I don't know, they're talking death row for Felix and shit, man. It's a boxing tragedy. This guy was a top amateur, gave Lomachenko a really good fight in the amateurs. I remember watching it. And he signed to top rank, and he seemed like a dead-on certified world champion. There was a contingency of boxing fans and media, credible media, and people in the industry saying, this kid's going to be a star. But look where he's at now.
Champ, so Wilder won arbitration, man.
What?
Wilder won. Danny, Wilder won arbitration, and he's getting his third fight with.
So what that mean?
It means that they
gonna win.
Well, no, it means that the Fury can't fight nobody else but Wilder.
Okay, so yeah. Fury again. Yeah, I told you like the first 2 times. Fury's gonna beat on him. You can't fuck with Fury.
But even now, after the trainer switch, he got rid of BRELAND.
What that mean? What you gonna learn from a nigga that you knocked out?
All trainers ain't world champions.
What are you gonna learn from somebody? How's somebody gonna teach you something that he can't even do either?
Because
you heard what Tyson Fury said.
All trainers.
He said I busted. He said I broke your eyebone and broke your eyebone.
Chris Colbert, featherweight contender, setting the cat amongst the pigeons. The Wilder fans weren't happy about that. He was roasting them. Brian Castano and Jamel Charlo fought to a draw at 154 in an attempt to become undisputed. They're going to do it again this year. It was an excellent fight. Joe Joyce was being outsped and outpunched by the quick attack him, but his body punching and his persistence, his size, his attrition, ground down Takam, and he eventually won in the 6th round by TKO. That was on BT.
Fury and these guys are well advanced, well ahead of me in terms of they were professionals when I first walked into the boxing gym. So when I first walked into the gym with Ben, these guys were already done their amateur career and they're pros. So when I done my Olympic thing quick and I turned pro, I'm looking at these guys like I want what they've got, and I've fought champion after champion, defended my belt against my mandatory challenges, lost my belt, won it back. And there's a time now where it comes to fighting the guys that people want to see me fight, which is no problem. It's not a problem at all. We do good business with people. And it's just clear to see now with this last situation we face is like the 258 management, Matchroom, done a great job of putting on a potential show that was ready, signed to go ahead during the pandemic, which was a nice offer, lucrative offer, where X amount of fans would have been able to go, ready to sign, ready to fight, no qualms on my ends, I'm ready. And they bailed out on not only me, but the boxing world. Because this is the first time in 120 years or so that 2 British fighters would have fought for the undisputed title. It was a legacy fight. And that's the only reason why it didn't happen, because they either wasn't organized on their side, Fury wasn't ready for the fight, I don't know what it is, but my truth, all I can say is that if you look at the history, the email trails, the conversations, we had the deal in place, we were the ones who found the venue, we were the ones who took the offer to them, and they were the ones who couldn't fulfill their end by just putting a signature on the contract.
So you don't believe in this legal thing that happened in America? You think that's just a smokescreen?
No, that's real, but that can't be an excuse as to why.
So you think he should have just ignored that and just gone on and took the fight
I think
anyway?
he should have made it clear from the get-go. That.
So you don't think he basically was transparent at the beginning about what was happening?
Yeah, it's not a problem. If I'm not ready to fight, I say, look, guys, look, I'm going to be real with you. I want the undisputed fight, but let me get past my mandatory challenger. Let me get past my rematch clause, and then I'm going to win. I'm going to do this for us, and I'm going to fight this undisputed fight. That's just honest.
The bubble doesn't work all the time. Tyson Fury withdrew from his July date with Deontay Wilder, and it was rescheduled for October. Conor Benn, he withdrew from a fight with Adrian Granados because he had the coronavirus. And it's weird, yeah? After the fight, a lot of people said, oh, Adrian Granados was washed and he was this. But when Conor pulled out, they were saying, oh, he didn't want the Granados smoke. Canelo, Caleb Plant talks for Undisputed fall through because Canelo wanted to be ensured that he'd get the same purse if Caleb pulled out and a substitution came in, they'd get the same purse. And there was other issues as well. August, as Michael Wilson tried to get a right hand off, he was beaten to the punch by Michael Hunter's right hand and floored. Nose and mouth busted pretty bad. The fight was stopped. I couldn't get hold of the whole fight. I just saw the knockout. It looked pretty easy for Mike, as expected. The fight has basically went under the radar on a Tuesday night, and this is what he turned down, $400,000 and an opportunity to be the mandatory with the IBF direct shot at Anthony Joshua. He turned this down. Didn't want to fight Govic. And this fight hasn't raised his profile at all. It was on TRILLA. Looks like they may have compensated him pretty well for fighting this guy here. I don't know how much he got. Lou DiBella promoted this card. The only other recognizable name on the card was Chris Algieri. What's next for Michael Hunter? Is it all about the money, or is he trying to amass a resume and fight for belts, world title belts? Gareth A. Davis says Ebony Bridges could be the Muhammad Ali of women's boxing. Now, let's not be stupid. His boxing knowledge can't be that limited that he would have thought that, right? He had some convoluted idea of how she could transform the sport for women. Let's not pretend that he meant that she was the equivalent of a boxer to Muhammad Ali. You know when someone uses a poor choice of words to explain himself? That's what this was, yeah? That's what it was. But you got to do better as a journalist, Gareth. You got to do better. You got a whole lot better to do, you know what I mean? It has to be said. Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk sell 60,000 tickets. Sold out. White Hart Lane in 24 hours. Fabio Wardley destroyed Nick Webb in one round. Webb came out hard, throwing bombs. But Fabio weathered the storm and came back with his own shit. Nick was a little too reckless. And out he went. Great finish. Good heavyweight contest in the short time it lasted.
It's a robbery. Call the police for me.
Sometimes you've got to be careful that you're not being prejudiced by everybody saying, oh, you need to go watch that beats. It's a robbery. But I watched this fight here. And I saw Michael Fox comprehensively outbox Gabriel Maestro easily. It was just so easy to score. Added to that, Fox scored a knockdown, a left-hand counter. This guy easily avoided getting trapped on the ropes in the corners, pivoted out when it looked like Maestro was threatening to swarm him. He was never backed up under any sustained pressure. He caught a few right hands here and there, but nothing that disturbed him at all. If he did get caught, they were all single shots. There was never no sustained attack from Maestro. None. Fox, his trainer was Atlantis Fox. I don't know if it was the fighter or if it was Atlantis' dad. So he's got a connection to that family, I'm assuming. But Fox is a southpaw. He landed a few check right hooks as the shorter, more aggressive guy advanced in. It was easy as anything. Glorified sparring session with a WBA interim belt on the line. In the mid to late rounds, he started throwing combinations as he got more confident, and they robbed him on the scorecards. They robbed him. Yeah, I'm saying robbery. And it wasn't one of them robberies that they tried to tidy up and hide the evidence. They scored it a unanimous decision. 115-112, 117-110. Seriously. And the other one, 114-113. 3 blind mice. Even the 114-113 is not acceptable. Even that's not acceptable. Because the man just got outboxed in there. Outboxed. I was looking at my option of websites to get some more information on this horrible, horrible scorecard. Bad enough the flipping interim belt being fought for. And you got this scorecard. So I went to Free Kings Boxing. Bigged them up. So one of the judges, her name is Gloria Martinez Rizzo. She's the one who scored it 110-117. She was also exposed by making racist tweets about Michelle Obama, calling her a monkey, something or the other. But we all know the WBA, they're based in Panama, and what we're seeing here is a Latin American bias here, giving this decision to the Colombian. There should be an investigation, and I hear there will be one. And it's not going to leave them looking very good. An investigation is needed, and it might provide us some answers. The female judge, she was banned for 6 months or suspended, and the result was overturned. It's a no contest now. BOWATE scores another devastating knockout this year against Bolotnik, a good European level standard fighter. Was well ranked in a few of the organisations, Bolotnik. Let's not undermine that. BOWATE, you know, he's right up there in contention to face Dimitri Bivol for that WBA title. Virgil Ortiz, after a slowish start, he took out Kavalauskas. Rigo versus Casemiro. Rigo? It wasn't good, bro. It wasn't good. 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 You know, Casemiro won almost by default of Rigo's unengaging approach, let's say. According to your boy Mike Catpinger, Trilla's Ryan Kavanaugh tells ESPN contracts are being sent today for the Teofimo Lopez-George Kambosos title fight. It will take place on Tuesday, October the 5th at New York's Hulu Theater at the MSG. $19.99 for the pay-per-view, or $2.99 as part of the monthly subscription. Wow, so this was supposed to be the big power move. The $6 million purse bid, which nobody saw. It came from left field from Trilla. But COVID came, and they had to try and change business strategies, even put the fight in Australia, Kambosos' home country, where it would have definitely have done big gates. And there's pay-per-view revenue out there in Australia too. But it's been a bit of a come down for Teofimo, bit of a crash landing with a bump to reality. New York's Hulu Theater is formerly the Felt Forum, I believe. The Hulu Theater. $19.99. We don't normally see them kind of prices for pay-per-views in America. That's UK type figures, you know what I'm saying? Or $2.99 as part of the monthly subscription. I guess Teofimo Lopez at this stage will just be happy to get the fight on. I hope he's still focused after all this fight has been through. This is where his old man is going to be a vital part of that team. Keep his son focused on what needs to be focused on. By all accounts, from what I've heard and what I can see, Teo is not a household name in America. So it's not a pay-per-view they can do for $60 a pop. So bidding $6 million for it was very ambitious, wasn't it? In hindsight. I gave Teo his due. I said, yo, Bob, because, you know, I get a Bob any chance I get, and I still will. But can't be that hard on Teo, or perhaps you can. Somebody perhaps should have legislated for Corona. People are learning now the hard way. Teo should have got himself vaxxed up in hindsight, but can't cry over spilled milk. Trilla claimed they've lost nearly $5 million, travel expenses, marketing costs that can't be recouped since event insurance isn't protected against COVID. Pricing the pay-per-view at $19.99. I think they know they're going to take a loss, but they just want to recoup whatever they can recoup and do as much damage control as they can on the event. It's the tale of two boxers, two welterweight fighters who ducked Terence Crawford religiously. Manny Pacquiao ducked Terence Crawford at top rank religiously. Bob Arum protected him from him, Freddie Roach protected him from him, and his fan base protected him from him. Errol Spence religiously ducked Terence Crawford. Al Heyman protected him from him, and his fan base protected him from him. Wrong side of the street. Why should I fight you when I can fight Terence Crawford and make just as much money? Spence said they'd give Crawford a 80-20 split or a 70-30 split and all shit like this. All of a sudden, Errol Spence is handed a career-defining fight against 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao, and a torn retina takes him out of the fight. Pacquiao takes on a late sub from Cuba who can't speak a word of English, Yordenis Ugas, and is systematically outboxed. winning by default politics is the worst way to win in boxing. But by default, Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao are perhaps third and fourth behind Mayweather in modern day welterweights. Terence Crawford second. I don't give points for ducking. I'll give the points to the person who's been ducked. Some people think that's not fair, but I can't see no other way which really could be fair. If you've ducked somebody and you still want to maintain rank over them, nah. September, Sky in defiance showing they're not finished without Eddie Hearn. They've got Josh Taylor, Chris Eubank, Savannah Marshall. Clarissa Shields has inked a deal there too. Amongst many more signings they've added to the roster at Boxer XX with Ben Shalom, which is good for British boxing. Now we've got, because we went from Sky versus BT to Sky BT versus DAZN over here. So the competition, in theory, could drive up the quality of fights, but don't hold your breath. Nah, it should be good. It should be good. 2022 should be a good year for British boxing. September. Ow. So, Josh Warrington, illegal usage of his head in the Lara rematch. Technical draw over 2. Very anticlimactic. He looked a bit boomy. You guys don't know that word there. I mean, yeah, he looked a bit boomy. I mean, he looked a bit boomy of Lara, who knocked him out previously this year. And the only telling punches landed throughout the fight were by Mauricio Lara. I don't think we'll be seeing a third fight. So, you know, is this redemption for Warrington? Not really. Not really. Katie Taylor won well against Jennifer Han, but it was scrappy. Another scrappy effort from Katie, but she done what she had to do. Conor Benn chased Adrian Granados, who, you know, said he wanted a toe-to-toe war beforehand, but come fight time, he wasn't about that life. He wasn't about that life. Conor goes to 18-0, and this is one of his career best wins. There's a lot of skeptics out there, but Conor's doing his thing, and he needs to just focus on the task at hand. Ebony Bridges, very fortunate to get a scorecard from Steve Gray, who I was talking about earlier, who's made a nuisance of himself this year. I believe if a fight is under 10 3-minute rounds in the UK, only the referee will score. And he gave it to Ebony 77-76. And I heard people saying, well, Beats, Ebony hurt her hand. Like, that should have any effect on the scoring. Like, she should be compensated for that on the scorecards. That's ridiculous. What, because she's the promotional favorite? This is ridiculous. She was outboxed. She was outboxed. And, you know, it's not I hate on Ebony or anything like that. But if you're not good enough to win, you're just not good enough to win. Why is that such a condemnation on sportsmen or on people these days? You come up short, you're not good enough, and you're a hater. No, I'm not a hater. She didn't win that fight. Gangloff should have been awarded the decision. They're not even giving Gangloff a rematch. That's how dismissive and disrespectful it is. At least give that woman another payday and let Ebony try to clean it up somewhat. No, not modern day boxing. You know what I mean? And this is for people who say that I'm a Matchroom shill. It's ridiculous. No, Matchroom do some fucked up shit. And this is an example. And unless it's a small hall show where you don't have a 10-3s main event and you don't have 3 judges in the building, British boxing needs to get rid of that referee alone scoring fights. It's antiquated, it's dated, and it's subject to corruption. TRILLA serve up, Holyfield versus Belfort. How long did Holyfield last? Was it two rounds? And he was slipping all over the place and getting hit with shots against Belfort. He's a UFC fighter, and then you had Anderson Silva beating up someone named Ortiz, a UFC fighter, trying to box. Ortiz's technique was horrible. But Anderson Silva, he can box a little. He's a very talented guy. Why don't Jake Paul fight him? Perhaps the most bizarre and unexpected turn of events was the David Haye post-fight interview after he had the sparring session where he threw a few jabs in Joe Fournier's face. Was that just entertainment?
There's one fighter I'd come back to professional boxing for.
Okay.
That's Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury. So you want Tyson Fury?
Tyson
That's
Fury.
what you're saying.
That big
right
fat,
now.
That big fat dosser I know his kryptonite. I know what he can't handle.
What did you call him?
He's a dosser.
Okay.
It's his word. It's his word. He's a dosser. And I know I'm his kryptonite. And I know he knows it. His dad knows it. His uncle knows it. My overhand right, which I didn't even show in there tonight. I didn't want to scare him away.
Did you do that on purpose?
Of course I did. If I'd let my right hand go, he won't be taking the fight with me. But I know he thinks I'm 40 years old. He thinks I've finished. I've been out of the ring. I've just had one fight against Joe Fournier. He thinks it'll be an easy fight. And he's wrong. I know he's dodging Anthony Joshua. I know he's trying to put him on the back burner because he doesn't want that work. I'll give it to him. I'll give him that work. He wants a fight. The haymaker will come for you.
When the Seconds Out interviewer asked Frank Warren about Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yarde, he said, yeah, it's going to happen. They're both contracted to fight each other. Now, when both fighters are enthusiastic about the fight, the promoter doesn't say, well, they're contracted to fight each other, because that suggests that they're obligated to fight each other, not that they want to fight each other. So now, we know Pat Barrett or Lyndon haven't really been keen on the Anthony Yarde match. And it's not because they're afraid of Anthony Yarde. They believe they won convincingly and they can move on. Now, as you can see in this tweet from Michael Benson, Frank Warren has registered a complaint with the British Boxing Board of Control because Lyndon signed a contract for the rematch before the first fight. Frank wants a resolution without it going to the board or going into the legal system. We haven't seen Frank trying to hem up some boxer in a courtroom for a while. They want an amicable solution, but will they get it? Does Pat Barrett, who manages Lyndon Arthur, want to go another way? Now, it's not popular, but the Mexican boxing contingent are going to have to deal with the criticism that's being thrown at Eddie Reynoso, Oscar Valdez, and anyone else who has been popped in that stable, because their fighters have been the benefactors of preferential treatment, doping violations for certain substances being reclassified to save Mexican fighters. That's not right. Press conferences like what Canelo had, that's not right. I call it a damage control press conference. Not very creative, but it's apt. Ignoring the VADA results, the Pascal Yaqui tribe, or if I pronounce that right, just ignoring that and letting the fight go ahead, that's not right. The WBC's role in all of it, that can't be right. Them sanctioning fights for someone who's popped for an illegal substance by the doping agency that the WBC used for their clean boxing program. Doesn't make any sense. And then Valdez getting somewhat lucky on the scorecards against the Brazilian, Canseco, if that's how you pronounce it. I'm not going to make too much of a deal on the result or the scorecards because it was a close fight. But just to punctuate all the fuckery with the dirty tests, he gets, in many people's eyes, a gift scorecard. I think it was close. I think the Brazilian got it. But one of the scorecards, 117-110, if that racist female judge in the Mikhail Fox fight, if she can't judge fights no more, the same should be happening to that judge there with that scorecard. The Mexican fighters are getting a bad rep right now. Now, I didn't make it that way, so don't be like, oh, why are you dissing our fighters? I haven't dissed anybody. I'm telling you, this is the feeling from a lot of boxing fans, is that there's a lot of corruption, a lot of stuff that just don't add up with the WBC and Mexican boxing right now, and that's the truth. Late September, Canelo versus Plant switches from Fox to Showtime on the PBC. The presser goes off, hands are flying. Caleb looks like he comes off worse. What he does is he's cut around the face. Two of Devin Haney's WBC mandatories, Jojo Diaz and Ryan Garcia, two Mexican fighters, want to fight each other, but they don't want to fight their mandatory against Haney. Donaire, he calls out Casemiro again. Earlier in the year, there's a row about the clean boxing program, and Donaire insisting that Casemiro take the extra testing that Donaire's paying for out of his own pocket. There's also the insults to Donaire's wife, which wasn't good, which wasn't a good thing. Usyk boxed out of his skin. AJ looked a little flat in there, and he lost all 3 belts to Usyk. This result turned the heavyweight division on its head, literally. Can AJ do better in a rematch? We shall see.
One thing Usyk does really well is he kind of infiltrates your brain in the lead up to the fight, where you're almost worrying yourself with what he's going to do and how good he is, because everybody tells you how good he is. And I think maybe AJ gave him too much respect.
On the same card, Callum Smith, it's like he's got a new leash of life with Buddy McGirt. 2-round destruction of Castillo yesterday. He seems less inhibited when he was boxing yesterday. No disrespect to Joe Gallagher, but Callum threw that right hand with horrible intentions, and you saw the convulsions in Castillo's legs when he was out. They say he's okay. Scary looking knockout. I haven't seen convulsions like that, you know, like Patterson versus Ingemar Johansson in a rematch and Wilder versus Lajkovic. That's up there with them. And Callum is off to a flyer in the light heavyweight division. Campbell Hatton gets an absolute gift against the foreign import. Lawrence Okolie, first defense of his WBO cruiserweight title against Dylan Prazovic. That ended in 3. Easy win for Okolie. Hopefully we'll get to braid this fight, or there's really not much purpose him staying around there at cruiser. Look, Sky, some things are just not good. And this is whack. This area covered graphic is whack. It looks like something that was left over and rejected when BBC One was making CFAX in the 80s. So I'm still trying to work it out. Macklin explained some of it. Reactor represents the red part of the ring that's been covered, and his opponent represents the blue. So according to Macklin, it means that the opponent had more of the ring center while Reactor was circling the perimeter. If they're going to do this, the graphic needs to be better and it needs to connect to the flow of the fight more. That's all I can say. Will we see it again? I'm not sure. No, we haven't seen it since. David Avanesian, European welterweight champion. He's been bounced around the top British promoters a little, hasn't he? Like, after he beat Josh Kelly, Eddie had some options on him. And then apparently he went to Boxer XX on Sky, had a fight with Liam Taylor, destroyed him in a couple of rounds. And the next, Frank Warren signed him on BT. Bob Arum went really low first. I can't remember what the initial layout he wanted to pay for the fight. T.O. wasn't happy with that. Bob said, okay, well, you can go to the purse bid if you're not happy with it. And then Trilla bid 6, Bob bid 2 point whatever, and Eddie bid, what was it, 3.5? But it looks like Trilla had taken a knee. Because in June, your kid contracted COVID, tried to reschedule it, wanted to put it in Australia. T.O. didn't want no part of that. The October the 4th date was pushed back to October the 16th. That was met with resistance by KAMBOSOS. Trilla are now saying they have lost millions in trying to promote this fight. Talking about there was a 37 grand plane flight for KAMBOSOS. What was they doing? Buying the airplane or something? But 37 grand ain't 8-9 million. What they're claiming they lost. But that's what they're saying they've lost. It's very vague what they said they spent the 8-9 million on. But they're taking a knee now. They don't want it no more. They don't want to promote this fight. They will no longer seek to have this fight on its upcoming show. So the second highest bid from Eddie Hearn, Matrimon DAZN, will promote and broadcast the show now. Watch Arab going off with Mike Coppinger over Teofimo Lopez.
Is on top of the world, and he hasn't fought for over a year. I mean, that's a criminal thing.
It wouldn't have went to purse bid if you would have paid him what he was looking for.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
Yeah?
Yeah, prick.
Go ahead.
Come on, get him out of here.
Okay, you're getting out of here.
Yeah, move him out of here, Derek.
Then he went off on Kate Abdo. You know, Bob Arum's a clown, man. I can't believe people are actually agreeing with him when he did that. So both men are career heaviest. Wilder weighed in at 238, 7 pounds more than the second fight. 17 stone. Fury weighed in 277, 19 stone 7, 4 pounds heavier than last time out. He still has a considerable advantage in weight. 39 pounds to be exact. Wilder weighed in with his tracksuit bottoms. Tyson Fury weighed in fully clothed with a vest, tracksuit bottoms, and the Undertaker's hat, which led a lot of people speculating Maybe he had weights in his pocket so he could appear heavier. I don't know. Shannon Courtenay lost her titles on the scales. I've never heard a woman say she missed the weight because of a menstrual cycle. It might have happened before, but they didn't mention it because there's a lot of people who'd be all over that, especially online.
Administration cycles, I'll give bitches. Bring your craziest nigga, I'll give stitches.
That she came in the ring wearing a knee brace and was comprehensively outboxed and outfought by Jamie Mitchell, who took a WBA bantam title. That was that. Post-fight, she claimed she won the fight and was very disrespectful to her opponent. And the online response to that wasn't very complimentary, so she's went into hiding for a little now. Solomon Darkades looked very good against Kamil Sokolowski, outpointing him over 8 rounds. It looks even better in hindsight, you know, after we saw him give David Adilier all the issues he needed earlier in the year. And Adilier was lucky to get the decision. And we also saw him beat another prospect, Don Charles' son, George Fox. He outpointed him. And Solomon looked smooth and done very well, 78-74. Ted Cheeseman, he had a war with Troy Williamson and lost by 10th round knockout or TKO. Great battle. Ted always in action fights. And on the main event, Liam Smith, he TKO'd Anthony Fowler in the Battle of Liverpudlians. He TKO'd Anthony in the 8th. This was a Matchroom and DAZN card. On the Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder trilogy, Jared Anderson knocked out Tedeshkin in 2. Robersy Ramirez, he won a 10-round decision over Orlando Gonzalez Ruiz. J-Rock Williams, he was surprised and outpointed by Vladimir Hernandez. Edgar Berlanga, he won a 10-round decision over Marcelo Esteban Coceres. He was down in the 9th, Berlanga, and didn't look very good. But then again, Billy Joe Saunders didn't look very good against this guy either. F.A. Ajagba lost his unbeaten record. He went into the Frank Sanchez fight 15-0, but Sanchez 18-0. Gave him a boxing lesson and had him on the floor in the 7th round. Robert Helenius repeated the dose on Adam Kownacki and defeated him again in their rematch. The first fight, he ended it in 4. This time he ended it in 6. Looks like Kownacki kind of waved the white flag and gave up, throwing low blows to maybe get out of there so he didn't have to take no more punishment. And in the main event, Tyson Fury knocked out Deontay Wilder in 11 to retain his WBC heavyweight title. Good fight, very good fight. Wilder was down in round 3, 10-11, and he floored Fury twice in the 4th round. Knockdowns galore. Wilder's now contemplating retirement, and Fury's playing silly buggers with Dillian Whyte in terms of the purse split and what's he going to do next. Is he going to vacate or fight? Now, Sandor Martin appeared on a few DAZN cards, and I must have missed it. I don't get to watch everything. And Eddie said he was a good fighter. A few people said, yeah, he's good. He's a good boxer. And now, rather than us getting the Mikey Garcia Pro Grace fight on DAZN, we got Sandor Martin and Mikey Garcia. And Sandor cleaned him up, didn't he? On points, he cleaned him up, just outskilled him. I heard some pro Garcia people, I'm assuming they were saying that it was a close fight. Nah, it wasn't actually. No, he got beaten comprehensively in there. Sandor, southpaw, used the ring very well and outboxed Mikey comprehensively. Mikey looked half asleep in there. I don't know where he goes from here. On the undercard, Elvin Soto, he outpointed Jonathan Gonzalez to retain his WBO World Light Flyweight title. That was in October. And AJ has been looking for a new trainer, apparently. He went to see Ronnie Shields, Eddie Reynoso, Virgil Hunter. And apparently right now he's been spotted training in Dubai with an American coach named Anthony Chill Wilson. First Bridgerweight title fight proved to be, a very entertaining fight to watch. Ryan Riziki was the opponent. He was beaten by Oscar Rivas, who won the inaugural title. Very good fight. AB ended back in jail. I think he's out now. talking to Eddie about a potential DAZN deal, fighting the likes of Conor Benn. He might even get a fight with Amir Khan, you know. Don't write that off. They're free agents. The winner of Khan and Brook could end up fighting AB. Eddie will make it, don't worry. You know, I don't want to make them fight. Yeah, Eddie, you'll make them. Otto Wallin is frustrated by Dillian Whyte's withdrawal as the WBC cleared the way for Dillian's mandated shot against Tyson Fury. That's not straightforward with the split in arbitration. Tyson Fury threatening to vacate the belt. Bad blood in the presser between Tunde Ajayi and Pat Barrett, the coaches of Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yard. The rematch approaching quick. Pat Barrett threatened to punch Tunde in his face. 23rd of October. Shakur Stevenson showed great hand speed, great poise and ability in stopping Jamel Herring, taking his WBO super featherweight title. Very good performance. Shakur, if we're talking about the skill aspect, he has potential to be a pound-for-pound best fighter. He does. But he's not there yet. Like some people have been saying, he's not there yet. November. Terence Crawford, another stoppage, defending his welterweight belt. Is that 6 stoppages on the bounce since he's picked up the belt? And this time, it's a signature win against Sean Porter. First man to stop Sean. Sean is retiring now. Terence's contract is up with Top Rank. He can move forward and do it his way now. It was a very good fight. Sean was competitive, but ultimately he was up against the best welterweight in the division, perhaps the best fighter in the game right now. So no shame in that. 2 knockdowns in the 10th sealed Sean's fate. And his old man Kenny, he pulled the curtain on the whole thing. So Canelo laid down the law to Ryan Garcia. He's wasting a lot of time, wasting his talent. I look at him, I don't see him 100% dedicated. And to us, that's a bad signal. I tell you what, if I was Eddie Reynoso, I would tell Ryan, and I told everybody on Twitter, don't come back to the gym unless you're serious. And when you come back, you're going to get one more shot. And if you're not serious, it's bye-bye, rye-rye. Simple as that. Now, you've got to be careful with this one because Rolly's an oddball. It would be easy to convict him before the facts come out. And I'm not going to do that. It seems like whatever social media application this is, a few women have got stories and testimonies. Will it get to the police about Rolly trying to sexually assault them? I'm not going to read them out. But it looks like 5 women are claiming they have the same exact story. The real Rolando, Rolly Romero. It kind of relegates the fight with Tank to the back burner until all this is cleared up. Has to be cleared up, surely. Or is it a hoax, or is it real? Before anyone jumps to a conclusion, I'm not taking a side, but these internet profiles, from what I know, can anyone authenticate how real they are? What does it really say? What if somebody's got it in for him and wants to F with him? I don't know. I'll take the position of being very cautious until some actual names come forward and pursue these issues through the proper channels. I'm not talking about Gloria Allright, talking about the police. Will David Benavidez even get in a ring this year? He was scheduled to fight Uskatagi in August, then caught COVID. Benavidez has since recovered, only for Uskatagi to get popped for EPO. The bout was scheduled for November the 13th. They've got a replacement, Kyron Davis. Not surprised that Uskatagi popped. Is anyone surprised if anyone pops these days? It's always dangerous when fighters come out first round, not using their jab, looking to land big right hands. But Delorme, you know, he wanted to make his mark on Ennis quickly because Ennis is a fast, strong, big, powerful fighter and skilled. And if you let him get into a groove, it's going to be a tough night for you. So he wanted to land something big and get Boots his respect. He tried to get off some big right hands, but Ennis got his own right hand off. Right hand over the top, landed on the side, not quite the back of the head, but, you know, and down went Delorme. He tried to shake it out of his legs, got back up, referee wiped off his gloves. Boots came in throwing combinations, looking for an early finish. He landed a good left to the body. Got caught by a nice right-hand counter by Delorme, but Boots was all amped up, looking to do damage by that stage there. Boots came out from the orthodox stance, but by the time he landed the finishing 1-2, that was from the southpaw stance, so the switch hit a 2. And he made quick work of Delorme. Nice little showcase knockout for Boots. Called out Errol Spence. He'd have been better off calling out Pacquiao, to be honest with you. He's got more chance of landing that fight than a Spence fight. Jamal James has lost his WBA title he was headlining on this card. He's also out of the tournament, where he'd go on to fight the winner out of Ugas and Stanionis to become the official 147-pound champion for the WBA. He was stopped in 9 by Butev. So what's up with Scott Fitzgerald, former British light middleweight champion? Well, there was these pictures that have been circulating around online, and a lot of people ain't going to like the fact that I'm posting them up, but I'm going to post them up. And a lot of people are thinking he's fallen on hard times. He's apparently sleeping outside his beloved Wheat Sheaf, which I believe is a public house, some kind of establishment like that. He was sleeping on the floor. His clothes looked a little disheveled, but he's saying he had an exhausting day. He had a 10-15 minute straightener with an absolute rabbit of a southpaw traveller half an hour before on Ashton Park, I'm assuming in Preston. His trainer, Jimmy Moon, said he needs help, but he needs to want the help. He's currently 15-0. He made a comeback, was it this year? At super middle after going through rehab. It looked like he turned a corner, but you just don't know with Fitzy, do you? A lot of people like Ellie Scottney and former pro Dale Evans said, I really hope someone saves Scott Fitzgerald. There's not enough support out there for professional fighters. But it's not just professional fighters falling on hard times out there and losing their way. So he has to want to save himself. This is his journey. Maybe he'll get to a point where it can get no worse and then he'll turn it around. We'll see. After the pictures circulated, he's saying, don't kick up a fuss, it's nothing. You know, he was just having a scrap and just having a sleep after the scrap. But obviously, most people believe that he's back on whatever substances he was taking. You can't fight Canelo when you don't have the correct sustenance inside you. You can't. You're not going to get away with it. That's why I was expecting that to happen at any stage. When you're fighting the top guys, you can be doing okay. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, the fight's lost. Everything changes. You look all right. Then all of a sudden, I had Canelo up. It was close. I had Canelo up. All of a sudden, the fight's over. And ultimately, Canelo has got all them 4 belts, man. Just took that green one. Undisputed champion. Kiko Martinez knocked out Kid Galahad in the 6th and took his IBF featherweight titles. Massive upset. Massive upset. Kiko was a mile behind on points and he landed 2 right hands, 2 knockdowns, savage knockdowns. One of the most brutal turnarounds you'll see in World Championship boxing. It has to be said. Stunning.
What did you say? Listen, you know now you're swearing now. You know when Tommy knocks you out, don't you? You're going to bend your girlfriend over and do her like a dog in front of you.
Lonnie.
So I'm telling you straight.
Can't forget that one. Joe Fury. Bob Arum sabotaged Crawford's pay-per-view chances by putting him on some ESPN app. No other means of accessing the pay-per-view, and it flops inevitably. It does less than 100,000. Sad. At 154, Castano versus Charlo is set to go next year for Undisputed. Macabo is to defend against his mandatory Machuno at Cruiser, and the winner could fight Canelo, who should be in the audience. George Kambosos pulls off an upset 27th of November 2021 and takes a split decision against Teofimo Lopez. Kambosos scored a knockdown in round 1. Lopez scored a knockdown in round 10. It was an excellent fight. Kambosos, the Australian, he pulled it off. Great achievement. One of the upsets of the year. December the 1st, Terence Crawford is now a free agent. Bob Arum makes sure he has a parting shot, saying that he lost money on every Crawford fight. Michael Hunter, on a Lou DiBella promotion, had a stinker of a fight that he probably lost in all truth against Jerry Forrest. Judging by Michael's form in this one, maybe it's lucky he didn't fight Filipe Pogovic when he had the opportunity. And since Matchroom have dropped the guy, he's just looking like he's in the wilderness a little. Cassius Chaney, he lost his unbeaten record on the card as well. He's a heavyweight to George Alias, who's 16-0 with the split decision. I'm going to go try and look for that fight. Remember, there was a lot of talk about George Arias because we were looking at his dimensions and we ain't had too many Mike Tyson-shaped sluggers in the game for a minute. Not that he punches anything like Mike, but he caused the upset here. I'm sure Cassius Chaney was the favourite. I'm going to go look for that fight. Devin Haney is developing a nice arsenal of punches, from what I see. Some people say he gets hit too much, but he's trying to entertain. He's not getting hit square, like often or anything like that. He's developing a nice arsenal of punches, developing a nice resume. You know, he did rock Diaz on a few occasions. Diaz put in a good effort, going down to the body, and it was an entertaining fight. Devin's conditioning is excellent. Is he the best lightweight? Well, there's no one better than him. If you want to be the best, you've got to fight guys like Devin. There's no doubt about that. You know, whether you want to call him junior, champion, pride champion. I don't know about this pride shit. What are they going to do next? Give him a rainbow-coloured pair of shorts or something? Or email champion? Yeah, that's all funny. That's all fun and games. But Devin ain't about fun and games. And I'm not here to say he's indestructible or unbeatable at 135. I don't know how long he can make the weight. I wouldn't mind seeing him challenge Josh Taylor at 140. I think Josh Taylor would win, but I think Devin would step up, make a fight of it. But his conditioning is excellent. His speed is excellent. When he learns how to put his punches together a little more, maybe there's more stoppages in store for him. You know, he's winning all his fights by UD. He hasn't been on the canvas. He ain't been cut up or anything like that. As far as I'm concerned, he's a good lightweight champion. He's fought the best who they've put in front of him. And there's a lot of fighters who just don't want to share the ring with him. They can say, oh, probably because he's boring or he doesn't sell. Okay, if that's the reason, that's fair enough. They're still not proving that they're a better lightweight than Devin. With all that said, Devin is turning that uppercut into more of a weapon now. And, you know, his jab, he's using the jab as well, or if not, better than any of the 135-pounders out there. There's a lot of upside there. I see improvements. The way he's setting up that right hand off the jab, I see improvements there. Let's see if Eddie can get a unification fight. I just want to see him at least get a shot at unifying a belt at 135 without the fans talking about who can sell, who's boring, and how their boxer wears great aftershave and all this shit here. That's all. You know what I mean? It's a manly boxing. Or is that too much to ask for? I got a little carried away, man, with Yard and Linden, but I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed it. You know, friendly rivalry between Manchester. And, you know, I got very much immersed into that. Anthony Yard rep in London, yo, he has to do this. He has to do this. And my gosh, did he perform, bro. Looked like two different fighters from the first fight. The body punching, the focus was just scary. The high guard, the jab, and there was a lot of more stuff there. He just looked total quality. And Linden, he just crumbled, didn't he? Linden just crumbled. 4th round stoppage. Anthony Yard becomes Commonwealth champion. Post-fight, a little while after, Linden said he felt embarrassed by the performance. There's nothing to feel embarrassed about. He just came up short. That's boxing, isn't it? Tunde, Ade, James Cook, Anthony, big up. Much respect. We need more domestic fights like that, you know, with some edge to it, some rivalry. Like, security would have to be bolstered because tempers will get the better of rivaling fans at times, but that was exciting. That was like really exciting domestic boxing. You know what I mean? That was like some old school-ish. It was lovely. Stories coming out from the PBC that they're going to be putting Luis Ortiz versus Charles Martin and Keith Thurman versus Barrios on pay-per-view for next year. How's that going to go down? Won't be very popular, I'm thinking. Lomachenko soundly outpointed Richard Comey. Could he have stopped him? I don't know. Seemed a little strange the way the flow of the fight went. Like, did Loma let him off the hook, or was he just not able to apply the finish, so he started showboating and trying to give us the impression that he could finish it if he wanted to. But, you know, he won well, showed his qualities and showed his class. Let's not forget that Comey came off that win against Marinas, and Marinas schooled Rolly, who they've been trying to hype up to fight Tank. So he had some form going into the fight. But Loma made it look easy. I think Conor Benn should fight David Avanesian for the European title and then challenge for world honours. I don't think they should duck the European fight. If he could knock out Chris Algieri like that, there's no reason he shouldn't go into a David Avanesian fight believing he could win. Now, it's a risky fight. It's very risky. But this is world title level. There's no point pitching him in with any of the big guys, and he hasn't had a decent test yet. A European, British title, a Commonwealth fight, which has really tested him. Now, don't get me wrong. If Crawford, Ugas, or Spence said, yeah, we'll take a mandatory against Conor, I think he should take that as well. But right now, while they're prepping for a world title shot, they should take the right steps. If he can beat David Avanesian, his confidence will be all the better for it if he does get a world title shot next year. That's the way I feel about it. I mean, that right hand against Algieri was a thing of beauty, man. And the way he cut the ring off as well, like, I watched it a few times, and these kind of punches are not random. They're worked on timing your opponents when they touch the ropes, timing when they're going to try and bounce off and hit them with some good shit. That's what punchers do. These are the drills that separate the real punchers from the also-rans. Don't get me wrong, Ben has had some good opposition and he's blasted them out like Vargas. Remember Amir Khan was warning Ben about Vargas pre-fight? Yeah, and Ben blew him out in a round, you know? Granadas, yeah, toe-to-toe war, ran for his life. Formella, we saw the performance he put in against Porter, he did pretty well. And Ben arguably did a better job than Sean. So he's had tests, let's not pretend he hasn't had tests, but the Avanesian on paper is probably harder than anything he's faced so far. But yo, one of the knockouts of the year. He just detonated on Chris's jaw.
Amir Khan and Kell Brook fighting in
February, 19th of February, sis.
They're fighting in Manchester in the AO Arena, and guess what? All tickets sold out within 10 minutes. 21,000 capacity. Gone. No more. Zero. None. Zero. No tickets left.
Gervonta Davis was ran close by the unheralded Isaac Cruz. But, you know, Tank had too much skills for him. We got to bring up the fact that the pay-per-view event tanked because Leonard and Floyd have been trying to sell Tank as this big draw in boxing, and it seems that not taking on the stronger opponents like Devin, Tio, or Kambosos, Lomachenko, is now starting to hurt Tank's popularity. So what they do next year to promote Tank is going to be very interesting. Triple G, Keith Thurman, Gary Russell, Errol Spence was all inactive for the year. Ryota Murata, he hasn't fought since December 2019. December 2019. And this fight with Golovkin is supposed to be some big fight. By the time he fights Golovkin, he would have been out of the ring for maybe 2.5 years. Why the sanctioning body letting him sit on that belt for so long is the other question that needs to be asked. Now, recently, it hasn't been clear if Eddie is still promoting Triple G. They did some work together, but he's promoting this Murata fight. He's promoting that. He's not specific if it's going to be in Japan. They're trying to reschedule it for next year, April or sometime. But here's the thing. How can you promote Andrade, who's screaming for a fight, Triple G sitting down for the year, and Murata not doing nothing, and you're not putting no pressure on them, but yet you say you're going all out and these fighters should do this and that to fight Andrade. But yet you're promoting a fight between two guys, one hasn't fought for 2 years, and Golovkin for over a year. You're promoting that fight, pretending that you're working for Andrade's best interest. Like Canelo, you say you're a fanboy of Canelo. You need to be a fanboy of Andrade as well. He needs you to be a fanboy more than Canelo. You didn't pressure Canelo either. And before anyone in the comment section says something dumb like, well, these guys earn more money than Andrade, stop pointing out obvious shit. The point is, Andrade has to look out for himself, not for Eddie accommodating his bigger earners. Andrade wants to be a big earner. He needs someone who has his corner and looks at him the same way they look at Golovkin and Canelo. That's what he needs. And if Eddie can't do that, I don't know. I don't know what other options are out there, but he has to consider them. The Dillian White-Tyson Fury negotiations have hit a wall. Dillian's saying he's getting lowballed. Fury is saying that Dillian's asking for too much. Fury's talking about just having a fight without the WBC belt, and Andy Ruiz is a front runner. Andy fought once this year in June against Chris Arreola. He was on the floor in round 2, and he was hurt later on in the fight as well. So I don't know if his renowned punch resistance is on the wane. And is this why Tyson Fury is targeting Andy? Because he didn't look too good in his last fight and hasn't been that active, actually, has he? He didn't fight for the whole of 2020, I believe. The last fight that he had before, I guess you could say, subpar performance against Arreola was Joshua in December 2019, and he barely landed a punch, did he? Is this why Fury's targeting him? Perhaps. Big name, who's been inactive and looked a bit vulnerable last time out. ARUM is also looking at Robert Helenius. So Helenius will be in the UK and Ruiz will be in America. The Martin Bakole-Tony Yoka fight has been called off due to restrictions in France. I don't know why they just can't relocate the fight to the UK, Scotland, England. I don't think the in-house politics between DAZN, the PBC and Top Rank are going anywhere for the new year. Are DAZN going to go ahead with this BT buyout? Are they going to merge with the BBC like we've been hearing? Who will emerge on top next year in the UK? DAZN or Sky? Or will BT surprise everybody? Numbers are just coming for Jake Paul, 65,000 against Tyron Woodley. Would he have done more against Tommy Fury? No, not convinced. Not convinced. Bad year for pay-per-views. You know, you had Andy Ruiz versus Arreola. I don't think that done more than 100 plus. Crawford done under 100. Tank Davis done under 100. Fury and Wilder were down on their numbers they did in the second fight, but they did a respectable number between 5 and 6. All the pay-per-views they put out there, Ugas Pacquiao, didn't do good numbers. Not one of the pay-per-views out in America got near to 1 million buys. Maybe they're just saturating the market between ESPN, Showtime and Fox. Maybe that's what's happening. It is something they're going to have to look at for 2022. Now some serious questions have to be asked. You know, like after watching Evander Holyfield's pathetic performance against Belfort, that's pay-per-view, isn't it? On TRILLA, that's all pay-per-view. You know, are all these hybrid matches, I'm going to call them, boxing matches, are they starting to affect how people are viewing boxing now in America? Because the first Jake Paul Woodley fight did 480, 500,000, but the fight was a stinker. Like Jake was horrible. He was horrible in there. And Tyrone, you know, it looked like he could have did more. And is there a backlash because, you know, like some of these business people are underestimating how much people know about boxing. And Jake's not a real boxer. He's not a real boxer. He's not fighting real boxers. I know Tommy pulled out. You know, it's not just Jake Paul. I'm not saying Jake Paul's ruined it all by himself. But all the in-house politics over there between the networks and the different promotional outlets, people are just saying, leave my money alone, man.